Yeah, there's a handwritten note with every single order, which has been something that people seem to really appreciate. We can easily look back and we can tell if it's someone's first order or seventh order. And so as people become, that that's ordered from us 5 or 6 or 7 times, we can look back and see maybe like what stickers, or if they've ever gotten a pair of laces. It's pretty easy for us to toss in a couple extra things here and there to make sure people know we're paying attention.
That was Justin Fuller talking about the little things that sweeten the deal for Yakoda customers. Another classic fly fishing founders episode today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today. We'll help you on your fly fishing journey with classic stories covering steelhead fishing, fly tying, and much more.
Hey, how's it going today? Thanks for stopping by the Fly Fishing Show. Did you know you can read the entire transcript for this episode? So just in case you can't listen to it, we're providing that now. And I mentioned this before, but we've got a new service that we've got going here, which is going to make it pretty easy to do this. So you could check out that in the show notes. Just click the link in your app at the top. There'll be a show notes link, and that'll take you to the blog post where you can grab the entire transcript. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Jason Faerman and Justin Fuller are here to share the Yakoda Supply story and some products they provide. We find out why the guide laces are the thing to have, what their fly tin is all about, and the Purple Rain fly pattern. And we'll cut in with a little Purple Rain in the show notes as well, just for those that don't know or know of Prince or don't know of Prince. Before we get started, let's hear from our sponsors. Turtlebox is a new company I've been working with this year. They build an amazing portable speaker that is louder and more rugged than anything I've ever encountered. Unlike most other portable speakers out there, the Turtlebox was specifically built with the sportsman in mind. The quality of this speaker is truly unreal. I've talked with the guys at Turtlebox, solid dudes by the way. They love the outdoors and are all avid sportsmen. We all love to get outside and enjoy the peaceful nature of the river and woods, but who doesn't like some great music before or after an adventure? This is a product I can truly say does not disappoint. Go ahead and check the guys out at turtleboxaudio.com. So without further ado, here is Justin Fuller and Jason Faerman from YakodaSupply.com. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for making some time this morning for a good chat here. We're gonna dig into some good stuff you have going, some of the products, and you guys have a little variety of things. I didn't even realize at the start about the fly selection stuff you have going, and I kind of learned that in doing a little bit of research. But before we get into all that, can you just talk about maybe how both of you guys first got into fly fishing, and maybe Jason, we can just start with you since we first connected, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, fly fishing came later in my fishing life, if you will. I was taken fishing by my great grandfather real early on a pier in New York City, and he passed early on in my life, but I wound up inheriting all of his gear, which real heavy tackle, fishing in Long Island Sound and in the waters there. But I've just always been infatuated with water. We moved out of the city later on when I was about 7 and moved up to the Hudson Valley in New York, which is peppered with all sorts of glacial lakes and creeks and streams. And we lived in an area where I was always in and out of water, searching, finding salamanders, frogs, minnows, and just always had a fishing rod with me wherever I went. And it probably wasn't until I was in my mid-teens where I wound up buying a fly rod and like a hula popper set and learned how to tie bass flies and, experimented fishing or fly fishing with, for panfish. It didn't really last all that long, I'll be honest with you. But I moved out to Colorado when I was 21 and immediately bought a fly rod, and I've never looked back since then.
And why Colorado? What got you out there?
I had a girlfriend who was going to school here at CU Boulder,
Yeah.
and it was just time for a change. And her brother lived in Breckenridge, she lived in Boulder, and I came out and split time between both locations and found myself, you know, doing a decent amount of fishing, doing a decent amount of skiing, and doing a fair amount of travel around the state, and just really enjoyed traveling and being able to get into the water and kind of get lost.
Yeah, nice, nice. Well, I'm sure, we'll make the connection here a little bit, but yeah, Justin, maybe you can talk about how you got into fly fishing, and then take us to how you found yourself in Colorado.
Yeah, I have sort of a similar story, although I'm the Texan to Jason's New Yorker.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I grew up in North Texas. Had a great uncle who had a small cabin on a lake, and kind of a similar story. Put a fishing rod in my hand when I was a kid. Grew up fishing for bass with a spin rod. Didn't touch a fly rod until I got to Colorado. Um, in high school, I had some friends that lived on this sort of wasn't a pond, it wasn't a lake, but it was a cool piece of water that had a bunch of terrain and topography, and so just spent days and days out there in high school, sort of learning how to fish different kinds of water. You could get around the whole lake in an hour or two, but there were deep channels, there was a dam, there was some shallow water with reeds and docks and stuff. So just a really fun place to fish. And I moved to Colorado after college, a little bit later than Jason did, but we've been here for about the same amount of time. And fly fishing was something that I had on my sort of bucket list, but it took me a little bit longer to come around to it. But a good friend of mine, who's now a mutual friend of both of ours, that'll kind of come into play later
Mm-hmm.
when we kind of tell how we met, owns a fly shop here in Boulder, and he took me on my first day fishing on a float trip down the Colorado, and didn't take long after that before that's all I wanted to do with my spare time. So
There you go. There you go. So basically, there's a fly shop connection, which is great, which is I'm sure a cool story. So you guys are there, and then how is that story? And what was the name of the fly shop? Is it still going there?
yeah, it's Rocky Mountain Anglers here in Boulder. It's owned by a guy named Randy Hicks, who, like I said, is a good longtime friend of mine and Jason's. And he's just known as a guy who kind of connects people, and is really welcoming to beginners. Has been for a long time. I think that's becoming more of a
Mm-hmm.
trend now. But Randy's always been somebody who brings beginners in and kind of shows them the ropes. It's not a very intimidating place to walk into. So yeah, Jason and I met on a trip to Wyoming, up to the North Platte, and Randy brings a group of people up there, and he just kind of puts together these groups of people that he thinks might enjoy spending a few days together. So we spent probably a total of 15 hours in the car together and 3 or 4 days fishing, and it was a great trip, and that was kind of the beginning of our friendship.
Nice. That's cool. So Randy, so the fly shop owner, Randy, so basically he put this trip together with just a bunch of kind of random guys he knew. He was kind of the connector, and then said, I think these guys would have a good time, and you guys all went out there and just kind of went fishing, right? Is that basically how it happened?
Yeah, that's basically it. He does these fish alongs, not necessarily for the same time frame. They're mostly day trips, but on this particular occasion, we went up to Wyoming, and like Justin said, we spent a bunch of time in the car. We spent a bunch of time on the water, and we stayed in the same room together. So invariably, we just wound up talking about a lot of things. And when we came back from that trip, we continued to fish together. We continued to talk together, and we continued to do things. And I think it was probably somewhere around 9 months, 12 months later, on a trip that Justin and I went on, where we started expressing some ideas for innovations or products that we had in mind. And I definitely remember the day pretty viscerally. We were on this drive to this pretty incredible place, and there was just this moment where we had kind of opened ourselves up to one another, talking about these different ideas that we've been kind of holding on to. And I just remember, like, looking at him And I don't necessarily know if he kind of registered the same thing, but it was like, do we want to like start something? Do we want to kind of do something? It was almost unspoken, but invariably that's what wound up happening.
Yeah. Nice. So that was it. So basically, Yakoda kind of began there. And then, so how long until you guys had your first product out after that, that period?
9 months or so. Is that right,
Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah, that sounds about right. We had kind of had an idea for a bag, something that you can kind of stuff all your gear into, keep in your garage, throw in your buddy's truck, go to the water, keep your stuff separate from everyone else's, keep your car from becoming a mess, and then haul it out of the truck, put it back in the garage, and wait till next time. And we're not product designers by training by any means, so it was a definitely trial and error, kind of wrapping our heads around what it would take to even make what turns out to be a really simple product, but kind of laid the groundwork for the way we approach all the new products that we come out with at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Nice. So I guess we're at product time, talking about product. I love digging into the products because I've done a little bit of product design and I know the challenges of it, you know what I mean? And you guys have, maybe let's talk about that. So you got this bag and you got a number of different products, but so what is this bag? Is it, essentially it's throw all your gear in, which is great, right? You got to have something to throw all your stuff. Is this like waiter bag, throw all your wet stuff together, or is this more like a little more organized than that?
It's a big, substantial, high quality, durable carry-all. Um, we've, through the course of creating other products, we've kind of fallen into this place, whether it be accidental or not, where everything that we create is utilitarian and that anyone can use it for anything.
Mm-hmm.
We've chosen to create a bag that we use for fly fishing, but that doesn't mean someone can't use it for skiing or mountain biking or anything else. And it has a removable changing pad. It's our flagship product, the Yakoda Gear Transport, otherwise known as the Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a fantastic way to, put your boots, waders, beer, food, layers, your hip pack, and anything else that you need in it. In Colorado, we deal with a lot more um, changing weather than most other states, so we always have the need, or to be fully prepared for any sort of weather condition, and that's a perfect vehicle for moving our gear from place to place. When things are wet, what's nice about it not having a zipper or having a closure on it is that those items are still able to breathe. So if you forget about it in your car, which you get home from a long day of fishing, you're
Mm-hmm.
exhausted, the last thing you want to do is like hang your boots and waders up. But if you forget about it, things aren't going to mold overnight like they would in a completely closed bag with a zipper.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it has no zipper. So it basically it closes by or how does that work? Explain that a little bit.
There's a handle system. It has a cinching handle. It's stitched at different endpoints, and when you pull on the handles, it basically cinches itself up.
Oh, gotcha.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but it would be one of those things where you wouldn't want to just like huck it around in the back of a pickup or a boat, or or could you do that without stuff
Oh,
falling
it
out?
definitely does just fine in the back of a pickup.
Oh, good.
In a boat, obviously you can get water in it, but if you were to roll the top over, the material that we use is called X-Pack, and it's fully waterproof. Um, and your items would be kept dry. They'd be protected in there.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess maybe before we get too far into the product stuff, because I know there's a few other things I wanted to touch on here. Maybe just for somebody who, people listening that haven't heard of you guys before, maybe you could just give us a little bit of like an elevator pitch of what, when somebody asks you what Yakoda is, what do you tell them?
A lot of people want to know what the name means.
Yeah.
So it's a made up word, especially these days. It's, when you're starting a business, one of the first things you have to do is decide what you're going to call yourself. And we were, we knew that there was kind of a feeling that we wanted to go for. But, and there's a lot of vocabulary around fly fishing, and most of it's been used, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it's trademarked, and some of it's a little cliche, and obvious. And there's so many fly shops and things like that and outfitters. A lot of the names are, taken, and there's a lot of great names out there that people have been using for a long time. So um, I have a little bit of background in product naming and branding, and so we kind of went through some exercises where we looked at some words that we liked, and um, essentially we arrived at sort of a sound phonetically that we were into. And there's a little bit of there's a little bit of meaning for us that's kind of personal, that's baked in. But at the end of the day, it started to really sound like a kind of like a place, maybe a place on a map that you feel like you've seen before. Or to me, it kind of sounds like a place that I'd like to go and fish. And so it really is that. I mean, there's this place that Jason mentioned that we were going to the day that we kind of decided to do this thing together, and it's a really it's a special spot. It's not too far away from here where we live, but it's a place that not very many people know about. It's a really wild place, 4 or 5 miles in, 4 or 5 miles out from the car. Um, Rattlesnakes and bears and mountain lions and stuff,
Nice.
and just one of those places that it's really crazy that more people don't know about it. And we're pretty tight-lipped about it. You don't go there without somebody that you've been there with before, and you don't take somebody there unless at least one of those other people are with you. You know what I mean? So for us, it's kind of like that place kind of embodies what Yakoda is all about. I guess the hope is that everybody kind of has a place like that or finds a place like that. And when we're sitting at our desk at our day job, it's the kind of place that you can kind of daydream about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely. I remember the first time I heard it. That was the thing. You hear it and you're like, well, I don't really know exactly what that means, but it sounds good. It kind of feels. I think you guys did well in that because it makes you. Yeah, it kind of gets you thinking, and then takes you to a good place. So and I love the way you're. Where you want to take people, obviously, with your gear. So I guess so. We talked a little bit about the bag. Talk about your other products. When somebody asks you guys about your products, what are the other things that come to mind first? When you tell them what you guys have going.
Sure. I mean, we're definitely known for our guide laces and our fly tins. And then in the last 8, 9 months, we also came up with a relatively simple modular system, which incorporates our utility pouch, our utility wallet, and any of our tins. And, we do a bunch of hiking, as Justin said. Um, Fly fishing gear is already heavy enough. And because we keep the designs of our products simple, this little modular system weighs next to nothing. But when we hike up to high country lakes in the summer or back to this special place, during the other seasons, um, it's nice to be able to bring our little modular setup that holds, our tippet, our weight, our indicators, our flies. And it's because of how we designed it, you can literally attach it to anything or anywhere on your body. And there's a lot of great companies out there making beautiful gear, but it seems like they've either lost focus on simplicity and have been more concerned with creating the biggest or most feature rich products
Yeah.
that they possibly can, that the space for creating simple products is basically untouched. And we just kind of found our niche being ourselves. We're not complicated people. And most people that fish aren't either. And it doesn't take huge innovations to make your day on the water better. It really comes down to organization, to be honest with you. And like our utility wallet is a perfect example of that. That's literally the simplest product that we make. But as the person who kind of thought about it for a while, because you know we switch the places that we fish pretty often. In any given week we could fish 3 or 4 different places. Um, and we always I mean, I say we, I mean, I gotten to that place where I was jumping my tippet and my license and my weight and indicators from one setup to another, and invariably I would always leave something behind. And we're like, there's got to be a way to create some sort of simple organizer that manages all this. And the utility wallet was born out of that. And what I love about the design is now I know exactly where all my stuff is every single time I'm going somewhere different. And I use that design exclusively for fly fishing, but my daughter uses it to put her change and her money into. So it's like it just really
Mm-hmm.
talks to the utilitarian design in itself and how anyone can use our product for anything. Like we've got cyclists who put that utility wallet, in their chest pocket when they're cycling because that waterproof membrane protects the things that they're carrying from the sweat on their bodies. So there's just a lot of different ways to use our stuff, and it's really only limited by the person's imagination who buys it.
Nice, nice, and you mentioned also the guy. I was interested in that too. The guide laces. So what are those? That you see those and you think it's a shoelace, but is there something different about it that makes it a guide lace?
There is, and it's so simple that it's kind of silly. I was on a trip up in Wyoming with a friend of ours, and we were fortunate to have met this guy who owns an outfitter up there, and and we're staying at this really cool property and fishing with him each day. It was early in the season, and he was just kind of throwing us in his truck, and some of the spots that he takes his clients, it's sort of like a 2 hour radius, kind of around the Sheridan, Wyoming area, and he would take us to these spots, and we were really just checking the water to see if it was fishable, and he'd let us out of the truck to fish for 20 or 30 minutes, and we'd hop back in and go somewhere else. So we got to see a lot of this area up there, which is incredible. I haven't been back since, but would love to get back up there. And this guy, he'd been up there since he was in his early 20s. And this was his life. He guided in Wyoming in the summertime and all over the planet, in the other seasons. And um, he happened to have, this was maybe 5 years ago. He happened to have a pair of those Patagonia Danner boots before they
Oh yeah.
came out. So Patagonia had sent him a pair to test, um, and they caught my eye because I'd heard about them, and they just looked different than anything I'd ever seen. But what really caught my eye were these crazy. This guy was, pretty conservative guy in terms of how he dressed and stuff, and he had these just crazy over the top laces in his boots, and and I was like, Clark, what's up? What's up with those laces? Those obviously didn't come from Patagonia. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, disregard the color. My wife ordered the material. It's paracord. But he's like, I'll tell you a little secret, that'll kind of change your life in terms of how often you have to change your laces in your wading boots. And I won't reveal it, although it's very, I think anybody could figure it out, especially if they bought a pair of laces and looked at them. But it's just a variation on some paracord that, one little trick, and he's like, do this to the material, and it'll last forever. So kind of filed that one away, and a few years later we were kind of kicking around ideas for products, because the bag, we kind of founded the business on the bag, and it's not an expensive product in the sense of what you would spend on a piece of luggage or a bag at a fly shop. But it's still a high ticket item.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's a couple $100, right?
yeah, it's $189, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a great value. You could spend, there's comparable products that essentially do the same thing, but because they have waterproof zippers and stuff, they're $400 products. So
Yeah.
I think for what it does, it's a great value. But in order to introduce people to Yakoda, without asking them to spend that kind of money, we're always looking for products that are a little bit easier for people to pull the trigger on. So that's where the laces came from, and it was just sort of like, man, I remember this guy telling me this. I wonder if it's true. So we bought some material, cut it up, kind of tested it. It doesn't take long to figure out if your laces are gonna blow out. I mean, I think the clock starts ticking on most of the stock laces the first time you step in the water. So
Yeah.
especially in Colorado where it's hot, it's cold, it's dry typically. So when you're storing your boots, they're in a really dry spot. So they go from being completely soaked to being, bone dry and back. So,
Yep.
typically a pair of laces here will last, if you're fishing, let's say, even 50 days a year. You might get through one season with a pair of laces, and, they usually don't break, when you're taking them off, at the end of the day. They usually break when you're putting them on at the beginning of the
Yep.
day. Excuse me. And you don't have, most people don't carry an extra pair of laces with them, or, worse, you're in the middle of the day and you're kind of going to cinch things back up, and you blow out a pair of laces, a mile or two from the car. So, we looked around, we realized that, yeah, you can buy the same pair of laces that you got when you bought your boots, but, you're just setting yourself up for the same situation. So we fish a lot. I've never changed the laces in my newest pair of boots. They easily have, 120 days on them. Jason's probably got more on his. We have guides that are going through multiple pairs of boots with the same pair of laces. So again, just like a really kind of stupid, simple product that, is a great value. It's a great product for us because it helps us introduce the brand to new customers. It's the most popular in terms of volume. So, a lot of people, that's the first product they buy. A lot of people are buying 2 or 3 pairs at a time. So I think we've successfully reminded people that it doesn't hurt to have an extra pair in your bag or in your car, just in case. Most people,
exactly.
that fish a lot own more than one pair of boots. So, on one hand, you're kind of setting yourself up when you make a product that lasts. I would say that lasts forever, but that lasts for a really long time.
Yeah.
We're hoping that people don't come back very often to buy laces from us unless they want to change up the way their boots look or they got a new pair of boots, so.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. I think you look at the, I always think of the products I've had that have lasted a long time. One good example I always love to think about is like the Thermarest, right? I've had this chair kit forever. And I mean, I have torn it up. Literally, the chair kit just ripped off recently. I probably had it for 20, 30 years or something. But
Is that the Thermarest Lounger?
Well, this is old school. I got this like in 2000. Yeah. This is the one where your Thermarest actually folds up into a chair. It's got the stays on, and then I think it's different than what they have now. But
it has the cinch down straps, and you put your mattress in. I have the same one. It's lasted for like 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing about that thing is that even though I haven't bought a Thermarest product in 20 years, I've recommended Thermarest, how many hundreds of times. So, I mean, the traffic they've gotten from me just talking about how good, what I mean? So I think that by far makes up from the person that doesn't buy multiple products, right? If you have a high quality product.
Absolutely. And I think if you use those laces for a year and you're like, man, these things are still going, I think you're going to come back and see what's new.
Exactly. So the other thing I was thinking about, I was kind of looking through, the Yakoda Green Machine Fly. I was going to touch base to hear, because that kind of segues into the flies. And you guys, I didn't realize, but you have the fly selection. Can you talk a little bit about the tin and that whole thing you have going?
Yeah, sure. One of the things, been fishing long enough, been tying flies long enough that we've developed some patterns that have just turned out to be incredibly productive. And, whether it's fishing them here in our local creek, which is just minutes from our house, or fishing them, hours away from our house, they work everywhere. And knowing that there's a lot of people that are intimidated by flies and fly selection and fly tying, we thought it would be cool to come out with, flies that we specifically endorse and specifically use. Like, we're used basically a dozen patterns year round, always using the same stuff, even on different waters. And we just kind of came to the conclusion that there's a lot of people that probably would appreciate us creating a curated selection of bugs that goes in one of our fly tins, and that they might enjoy buying that and having basically, people that know what they're doing on the water create selections for them that they can use on the water and hopefully have success with it. There really wasn't much else to it other than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I first saw that. I think it was the Oregon fly shop down in Eugene. They were doing a little display of the tin, talking about how it kind of. Was that you guys know? Are you connected with those guys?
Caddis Fly Shop?
Yeah, Caddis.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Chris is awesome. The owner over there, Chris Daughters. They've been, they were one of the first shops to bring us on, and they really love the simplicity and innovation and its simplistic nature of our products, and have actually done some cool stuff where they've actually created some, short videos showing our product and going through the features on them, which probably doesn't take them that long because there's not a ton of features, but at least they're informative, and we need to do a better job of that ourselves, communicating design aspects to everyone, which is part of our plan in 2021.
Yeah, that's right. So what is the, I mean, looking out as you guys look at where you're at, and now how long has it been? How many years have you guys been going?
We're just a little over 3 years since we launched.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so you're still fairly young, I guess. I mean, what?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with it. Yeah,
Oh,
we're definitely still green.
Yeah, totally. I mean, 3 years, it's like, I just, think of as you look out, again, these questions, I always think about these things, what does the next, 5 years or so look like? And, as you guys plan for this, because you could go a lot of different directions, right? I mean, you could kind of stay where you're at, or you could keep adding people. And maybe this would be a good segue after you answer that question to talk about your other staff. But yeah, where do you guys think you're headed?
I mean, I think Jason and I both see this as, the next logical phase in our careers. We're a few years older than the guys that we work with. We're both pretty entrepreneurial. We have worked for ourselves for, a long time, and taking some of that knowledge, but also some of the, frustration that comes along with that. And, when you're working for yourself, it's great, but you're not always necessarily doing exactly what you might want to be doing with your day to day. And the last thing we want to do is take fly fishing and turn it into a job.
Yeah.
But I think we see ourselves kind of transitioning into this full time. I mean, we both still have full-time jobs. And so this is very much a side hustle. And we're fortunate to have partnered up with a couple of other people that are really motivated, smart guys who are good at things that we're not as good at, So we have a partner, Rob Herman, who is a super talented photographer, works a lot in the outdoor industry. And, that's obviously something that's super important for any brand these days, is creating content that's engaging and kind of tells the story visually. And it's something that, it's hard for a young company because it can be really expensive to create that type of content. And for a long time, Jason and I were kind of doing it ourselves and shooting photos on our iPhone. And I think we were fortunate early on to connect with a lot of people, on Instagram and stuff like that. But Rob has just really opened up, the possibilities with visual content. So he's primarily focused on that piece of the business, photography and videography, and just content creation in general. And then our other partner, Lincoln Key,
he was our intern, actually.
Yeah, nice. He answered a Craigslist ad. Kind of came on and helped with our early email marketing and Facebook marketing stuff, and then took a short hiatus, and then came back and has really, being a company that primarily sells our products directly to our customers, we're growing the wholesale side of the business, and being in fly shops is super important to us because, I mean, it's where the community happens, like Jason mentioned earlier. And, we'd always rather that somebody go to their local fly shop and buy our products than buy it from us directly. But the reality is it's going to be a long time before we're in enough shops where most people have the opportunity to just go down the street and buy our products. So, staying in front of people online, it's a loud, busy place. And someone like Lincoln, I mean, I don't know how you can run a business online these days without someone who, really knows the ins and outs of that stuff. So, and then everyone contributes, in a lot of different ways. We're all wearing a lot of different hats because it's something that we each get to focus on for a little bit less time than we'd like currently. So long term, I think, we'd like to be seeing each other every day. And, we all know that if we had a chance to sit down and really focus on this thing, for 30 or 40 hours a week, that, the sky's the limit. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So you brought these two, I guess, Lincoln and Rob on within the last year or two?
No, Rob's been Rob's been working with us for about 2.5 years. He'd reached out to us through Instagram, asked if he could photograph some of our product, complimented us on some of our designs. And he and I kind of forged a friendship. We started fishing together, and invariably it led to a position within Yakoda where now he's an equity owner and part of the team. And same thing for Lincoln. When he came back after a brief hiatus, we recognized the value that he brought to the table, and we offered him the same thing. So everyone's got ownership in the business, which really helps with kind of the self-motivation of being driven to create and, drive success in their individual departments. Now, we work together real closely as a tight-knit team. We speak every day. We have meetings once a week.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly reviewing, and forecasting and planning out into the future. But everyone does a good job of just doing their own thing. And then when we come together, everything that's the glue, is when we have those opportunities to all be on the call together, or all go fishing together, or, in COVID climate, that's certainly been happening a lot less, but we found ways to make it work.
Yeah, that's right. Has the COVID, I mean, I guess we're all hopeful that we're going to be pulling out of it, as we go out through this year. But yeah, do you guys see, I mean, how do you see that? Are you planning any? I've already noticed, obviously trips and things like that, it's hard to plan. But what do you guys have on tap the next, say, 9 months or so? Is it affecting your business currently?
It's helping our business, I'd say, because there's a lot of new people that are finding fly fishing. And because of how we create and price our products, we're focused on being an inclusive company. Not to say that a guide or professional can't use our products and absolutely improve their day on the water, because we have that as well. But, for beginners to come and spend, less money on gear, I think that the barrier to entry with us as a company is something that we've been focused on. There's enough high price stuff out there. And, whether it's through our digital marketing or through our content, we've seen a lot of newer anglers come into the sport, and they've gravitated to us, I think, more because of the simplicity and the way that we talk to them through our digital campaign and through our photographs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask you about that on the customer. I mean, this kind of goes back to just, business 101. But when you think about, your target customer, I mean, obviously it sounds like you guys have a diverse, group of people that, like your products. But who is that person when you think of that if you had a picture, what's that picture look like in your head?
And like I said, man, it's guides to beginners. It's everyone.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
everyone.
What we think is super cool about our company, is that there's something for everyone with what we design and what we make. Maybe pros aren't into our flies because they have their own flies that they tie, and that's great, but they love our drifter, they love our laces, they love the wallet because it helps improve their day on the water. We've got a couple of guides that are friends that, Chelsea and John Messenger, who probably have a half a dozen of our drifter bags between them because they use them for all their clients, and they absolutely love how much gear they can haul, and actually knowing exactly where everything is, when they're bringing clients to the water.
How much gear can you get? I mean, what do you think about that thing? Like, what could you put in there? Like, how many pairs of waders could you stuff in that thing?
You can put a couple of kids in it.
Is it really that big?
It's 95 liters.
Now, what is that? I'm not good with the liters. So what is 95 liters? So like, what would that be, like gallon jugs? Say gallon jugs of milk or water.
20.
Oh wow, yeah, 20.
More?
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, my mother-in-law uses it to haul her groceries from her car into her house. So you can put like 6 or 8 bags full of groceries in this thing.
Oh man, yeah, it's huge. This is awesome.
You don't, if you just threw a pair of waders in there, it would feel a little funky. But I mean, mine right now probably has, I mean, obviously it's got a pair of waders, a pair of boots, probably a couple of like warm beers,
Yep.
4 or 5 different kinds of jackets, and a couple other smaller bags that I use to organize some stuff that I may or may not need on any given day. So a guide though would probably put 3 pairs of waders and 3 pairs of boots in there.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And on the warm beers, are you guys more the type where you could drink a beer that's been sitting in the bag, or does it have to be ice cold for you?
You got to do what you got to do sometimes,
Yeah.
Dave.
I know. I'm totally the way. I'll pretty much, I like a nice cold beer, but I'll take whatever if I find a beer hidden in the, back of the car.
So
Now, I wanted to touch on the Montana Fly Company because obviously they're a big name out there. Before I get to that, I just had a question. As I was kind of checking in on you guys and looking at some of your social stuff out there, I noticed, you guys both have like a personal social profile, and I was looking at, Jason, you have it's almost all fish photos, and then Justin, for you, there's a lot of stuff on. I think yours goes back quite a ways, but a lot more kind of non-fish stuff. And now, is that, what does that saying something about you guys both, or is that just a difference of the way you use Instagram?
I think I started my Instagram account for fishing.
Okay.
And Justin has always been a designer, and he started his
Oh,
before Yakoda existed.
that's what it is. Yeah. So I was looking at a lot of, and it's cool. I mean, they're both awesome. I mean, yours, yeah, Jason, yours is like a pro, like a guide, and then and Justin, yours has a lot of cool. It's actually cool, Justin, going back through yours because that's the power of Instagram. I don't know you. We've never talked before this, but going back through your feed, and I mean, just trying to get to know you a little bit. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? I mean, you got this kid who I know now is, I think, like 10 years old, I'm
Yeah.
guessing. You got this. I mean, I don't know. For me, I think people think social media, there's a lot of bad stuff about it, but for that, I don't know. That's kind of cool. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I use it. It's more personal. I haven't used. I look at it all the time, and mostly these days to keep up with what's going on with Yakoda and fly fishing. But um, yeah, it's for me, it's more about documenting my time with my family, and
Mm-hmm.
then occasionally there's a fish photo that goes on there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think Jason's account has been good for the business because
All
there's
right.
great photography on there, and it says a lot about I probably was standing 10 feet away for a third or half of the
Yeah, you're in
photo,
some
you
of
know
those
what I mean?
photos. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're it's cool when you have friends who are great fishermen, but almost would rather put the rod down and pick up the camera.
Yeah.
Um, and it's definitely not all about you know, the fish photos for us. I hope that comes through on the business side of things.
Yeah.
It's more about those moments and in between at the truck drinking a beer after the end of the day,
Mm.
on the way, super early in the morning. I think that's the stuff that's more interesting. There's a lot of good fish photography out there. So
I mean, that's when you get to know your friends and know people, is all those in between times. Sure, the moment where you're holding a fish up, like that's the apex of a particular moment, but there's way more space in between than there is when than the highlight reel. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that's cool. Is your Justin? Is your boy? Is he into fishing? Into fly fishing?
not yet, just
Yeah.
because he's that age where anything that I think is cool is not cool to him, so, except for Star Wars. So
Totally.
I'm proud of that. But no, he likes he'll sit down with me when I'm tying flies, and I actually
Yeah.
had one of our fly tins that just full of like crazy weird bugs that he and I tied together. Um,
Exactly.
that I should probably try to fish a few of, but
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I always look at it's like he planted the seed's been planted, there's no way that he'll ever, even if he doesn't get into it. Now, I had a brother actually who never got into fly fishing. I had two brothers that were in it, but yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, I have two kids too, and they're a little bit younger, and they're not fully into it yet. But I kind of
They
feel
will.
like, yeah, I feel like we do enough camping and stuff and fishing that eventually they probably will get a little more into it. But either way, it's all good. So I want to touch on this Montana. Can you talk about MFC, how that
Sure.
connected? Because they're one of the big brands out there, one of the big names for sure. How did you guys connect with them and have this product going?
Well, we were tying a lot of these flies ourselves for a while. Then we started using local tires, and we literally just could not keep them on the shelf and available to the people that wanted to buy them. And I wound up doing a bunch of legwork, speaking with a lot of different companies. And invariably, the conversations that I had with Jake Schutz over at MFC were, they were easy, like we had a good time dreaming together, and I pitched him on some pretty crazy ideas, and he probably thought that we were crazy, but thus far he has 100% supported our process and has been a proponent of doing everything in his power to help us get to where we want to be. And that's something that we really appreciate. But, we're fortunate to have forged a quality relationship with those guys. They're helping us in the ways that they can with fulfillment and taking the patterns that I tie and send to them, and then, R&Ding them and making sure that they're replicating them properly. Mm-hmm. And then, providing us with high quality clones of the bugs that I tie. So it's been awesome, and we're real grateful for them.
That's great. That's it. I mean, it sounds like, obviously we all know if you're in business, it's, kind of the partnerships, the networking, and you guys have figured that out as well. Bringing on a couple of new staff. Do you guys feel like with where you're headed into the next, 3, 4, 5 years or so, that you're going to have to bring on, more people, or do you think you guys, where you're at, you're going to be good to go?
Well, we have a staff member right now who handles all the order fulfillment and inventory management. His name's Steve. He does a great job. Lately the speed at which we've been growing with our wholesale has been somewhat overwhelming, but he's been crushing, staying on top of things. And, the goal is, certainly, I don't necessarily know how many folks that we'd like to have part of the business, because that just means that we're probably growing bigger than we want to be. But, we kind of have a number in mind, as, where things would be comfortable and where we can enjoy doing this, and, create each day, talk each day, be together, and working on, curating this business that we're all pretty psyched on.
Nice. Yeah, this is it's cool to hear the story, definitely where your guys have, where you're at now. And I've talked to obviously a number of different people on different ends of the industry. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited to watch you guys and see where you go. What's next? If you look out, say the next, 6 months or so, anything new, you got coming, want to give a shout out to?
Lots more flies, more opportunities for people to buy fly selections that are put together for specific purposes. We have a subscription model, so it's called the quarterly fly tin, and if you subscribe to that, you get a fly tin once every 3 months with usually about 20 flies. And at this point, most, if not all of those, are coming from MFC, but typically 2 or 3 of those patterns will be something that you can't get anywhere else. So they're patterns that we've developed, and that's something that we're going to continue growing, sort of different iterations of that model, seasonal boxes and stuff for people. And we have nothing but respect for, the brands that we've always supported, Sims and Patagonia and everyone else out there. But, we're not, we're not looking to get into the more technical side of the business, but we do have some sort of semi-technical apparel that we're working on that we're pretty excited about.
Oh, cool. Yeah. The quarterly tin, I think that's interesting because there's a couple of different companies out there. I'm not sure how many, but they have, I think it's more like the monthly fly box, right? Or something like that. Why did you guys choose the quarterly? Why did that make sense for you versus say monthly or whatever else?
Monthly is a really fast cadence. And, I thought about, and we thought about kind of what a customer would prefer, and getting something every single month. I bet you after like your 3rd or 5th month, you're probably like, all right, I think I've got too much stuff now.
Yeah, it's true.
And, fish are still keying in on the same bugs, basically from one month to the next. And we just felt that we had the ability to create something that kept people engaged, kept their boxes fresh, and still gave them a great opportunity to get on the water and catch a bunch of fish. we often, as a practice, will take one of our quarterly fly tins ourselves and not use any of our other bugs and just simply fish out of that box for a day. And, not saying that we're pros, because we're definitely not, but any person can pick up that box and have a killer day on the water, whether it's someone who's literally never been fly fishing before up to, our friends that are guides that could definitely fish every single box or every single bug in that box.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. And that's part of the challenge, isn't it? I mean, when you guys choose what to put in there, is that based on, are you guys getting some help from the, from MFC or other guides, or you guys is that based mostly on you, on your stuff?
No, it's just, understanding seasonal entomology and understanding bug life and what bugs are, that fish key in on at certain times of the year. I mean, we've been fishing long enough that we've learned a bunch, like we still, every time we go to the water, we still turn over stones to figure out what bugs we're seeing the most of, whether it's big stone flies to, put a big, green machine pattern on, or some of our CDC stones that, we can use as a point fly, followed by, any sort of caddis nymph or larva, and then, likely a midge behind that. So,
yep.
Honestly, our philosophy of the business is to keep things simple, and same thing with fishing and flies. Like, there's nothing revolutionary about the flies that we tie. Most of them are simple, and every time I speak with Chris Keller over at MFC or Jake, I'm always like, we make simple stuff. Like, don't laugh at us, and they don't, of course,
Yeah.
And maybe I downplay the effectiveness of their simplicity, but these bugs work. I mean, our purple rain pattern, I've caught more fish on that one fly in the last 5 to 6 years than any other fly on my box.
What's the purple rain? What type of bug is that?
It's a variation of Lance Egan's rainbow warrior.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a jig fly. We fish a lot of jigs. Lincoln's a Euronympher where the rest of us aren't. We just love using barbless flies and how they hook up with fish, mostly in the upper lip. And more importantly, how it, preserves the fish. It's not ripping their lips apart. There's not barbs in them to damage the fish. And we feel, passionate about protecting our resource. And that includes the handling of fish. So when you use a barbless fly, it definitely helps to prolong their lives. And most of the time, you get the fish to the net, and by the time you're ready to take the hook out, the hook falls out by itself.
Exactly.
So it's just a variation of Lance's original Rainbow Warrior with different color thread, different color dubbing, and on a different hook.
Yep. That's it. Yeah. There's and obviously the whole Euro nymphing game. I mean, a lot of those bugs don't necessarily look like anything specific. They're hot spots and things like that, which is great. So if we're right now, what is it? We're kind of mid-February. So if I was going to get a new fly tin, you would basically order now, and you would get the next one in, say, like March or April.
Yeah, we send them at every 3 months, every third month of the year. So March, June, September, and December.
Okay.
People that are already on the subscription get their boxes sent out, in the beginning of those months. We tend to open up the ability for new people to jump on, and right now we just opened it up yesterday on February 10th, where we released the spring box. So we've got newer folks signing up, and those people will have their boxes shipped out within a week or two. And then when people's subscriptions renew in March, then we'll send out the remainder of the boxes.
Gotcha.
Which I must point out, we hand pack every single one of those boxes, just like we hand make every single pair of laces we sell.
Yeah.
So we do all the work ourselves, and have a good time doing it. Lately, we spend a lot of time building product, and Steve helps out with building product. And it's great to see that the demand increasing, which also means that everything that Lincoln and Rob are doing is certainly helping in us expanding as a young company.
That's cool. Do you guys ever, since you're so personalized, do you ever do anything to mix it up a little bit, throw in like a note or a piece of chocolate or something there with the order, just to keep?
Yeah, there's a handwritten note with every single order, which has been something that people seem to really appreciate.
Oh, right on.
We can easily look back and we can tell if it's someone's first order or seventh order. And so as people become, that person that's ordered from us 5 or 6 or 7 times, we can look back and see maybe like what stickers, or if they've ever gotten a pair of laces. It's pretty easy for us to toss in a couple extra things here and there to make sure people know we're paying attention and appreciate their customers. So
yeah, I love that. I was just thinking, in the online space, and business wise, I mean, the subscription model is like the holy grail kind of, right? You get these people on, but the challenge is the churn, because you are going to lose people over time. Do you guys find, is that part of the strategy to keep people on, is just providing that custom service?
I mean, attrition is part of any business, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what business you're involved in. New people are going to come, old people are going to go. But we haven't seen a ton. We've seen small amounts, more due to someone's card expiring and their card not running than someone saying that, they have to cancel because they don't like what they're getting. COVID's been a little bit different, where some people have lost their jobs and they've had to pause their subscription because of that. And that's completely understandable. So we're here for them whenever they want to come back. And maybe they've learned enough through, when we send out a quarterly tin, we put together a thoughtful email that explains how to use the bugs and how to fish them, as well as, Justin puts together a diagram that helps each person identify every single bug in the box. So we're providing the tools that hopefully are grooming anglers to learn more about entomology and how to fish. And maybe they've just gotten to the point where they feel comfortable now, maybe going into a fly shop and buying these things on their own, which is fantastic.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna let Jason and Justin take us out of here, you guys. So why don't each of you do your own take us out, or do you want to do it both at the same time? How do you want to do this?
I don't know about that, but thanks so much for having us on. It's been fun talking about our company. It's the first time we've been able to do so, and we're real grateful for the opportunity to be interviewed by you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Much appreciated. And thanks for doing what you do.
So there you go. If you want to find all the show notes, all links we covered, just go to wetflyswing.com/201. I got to let that sink in a little bit. 201. It's another milestone. We just passed 200 episodes, and every time we get hit one of these big ones, it just makes me appreciate kind of where we've come from, and the fact that we haven't missed a week since 2017, since we started this thing. So just want to let you know, you are the reason why I was able to do this, and I'm still doing this. So I want to thank you right now for your support over the years, whether you're a first timer right now or a long-time listener. Just want to say thanks. I appreciate it. I also want to give you a heads up on a chance to subscribe, especially if you're brand new, you haven't subscribed to this podcast. This is the best chance. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll get you'll get updated when the next podcast is out. And right now, I'm not quite sure which one is coming up next. I know we've had a pretty busy spring, but yeah, click it and you can know. And if you don't want to listen, you don't have to, but it's the best way to keep up to date when we have these great episodes that are coming up here. So thanks for doing that if you have a chance. That's a wrap. I want to thank you again for stopping by today to share some time with us on this chat. We've got another little thing going on here. There's a new app out there called Clubhouse, and it's kind of like in beta mode, so it's not open to everybody right now. But if you are familiar with the Clubhouse app, check me out on there. We're going to be doing some cool stuff potentially. Likely some live shows and things like that where you can ask questions, live on the air while we're going. So we're kind of stepping it up, getting out of that comfort zone, if you will, and doing some cool stuff. So definitely looking forward to catching up with you hopefully soon, and maybe see you on the river or online.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.